What's up, friends? Today it is time to start phase 2 of the Inazuma Raceboard project, and that part or the phase is going to start with the controller upgrade. This is the SKP Solo, and this is the beast that will be powering this board for a long time to come. So let's jump right into it.
You make my heart beat super fast.
Alright, so first off, you might be asking, why are you upgrading in the first place? Well, to be honest, those MakerX M100s were never going to be the final solution. And in my phase 1 overview video, I explain kind of my experience with them so far. And you should check that out, which will be up in the iCard. But basically, they're really good, but they're just not good enough for the power level that I want to be pushing. Especially once I upgrade the battery to 18S, they will no longer be able to work because those only go up to 16S? I think they only go to 16S, I can't remember. But anyway, they were not quite good enough. They're very tiny, which was convenient, but they have a home in another board, and you guys will see that in the somewhat near future as well. So anyway, we're upgrading to the SKP Solo, which can do 80 battery amps per side, 140 phase amps per side, which is absolutely insane. I think maybe it's higher phase amps, I can't remember. I'll put it on screen if I got it wrong, but I think it's 140 phase amps and 80 battery amps, which is just ridiculous. And I'm going to try to use all that power. Now, today we're going to be upgrading, and we have a couple things that we need to do. Obviously, we'll need to open up the enclosure, pull out the old ESCs. We're going to need to make another wiring harness for this because it's not XT60s anymore, and we're also going to have to figure out where we want to put the power button, and we'll probably have to drill a hole for that as well. So let's get started, and we'll open up the enclosure and pull out the old ESCs. Alright, so we got the board propped up, and now gotta take out my stuff. So in here we got the two MakerX ESCs, and wow, it looks like one of them actually got warm enough to melt some of the foam on it. That's good. You can see it right there. Well, there's case in point why we're taking these out, but not super worried about it, to be honest. It's a little bit of foam, didn't catch on fire, we're still good. Got my loop key set up here. Won't need to be using that anymore. I kind of want to leave it, but also making this loop key harness work with the dual XT90 input and the power switch. Well, the power switch doesn't matter, but the dual XT90 input, that would be pretty annoying, so I don't think we're gonna leave it in there. I guess this is where I can kiss my working race board goodbye for now, until I get this set up anyway. So I guess I'll just go ahead and unplug the motors. Now, I will say that this is definitely not wasted in any means, not these adapters or anything like that, because all of this is going to get used on another build that I'm doing on the channel very soon here, so no waste there. Still got to use the Hoyt puck because I still haven't gotten the iRemote working, but it is what it is. Catch up with you guys in a second once I've got all this disconnected. Well, there we go. We got all that cleared out here. Only thing left is the dual connector Hoyt puck, whatever harness, but I'm just gonna make another one to go to the new ESC. So, got a lot of soldering to do, but let's see how the initial fitment looks in here. I was honestly a little bit worried that this would be too big, but opening it up now, it looks like it's gonna be fine. However, one day we will need to change this so that the heatsink can be outside of the enclosure, but right now we're only going to be running 40 motor amps per side because that's all this battery can do, and I'm sure we'll be fine with that. So, sorry, 40 battery amps, not motor amps. Yeah, that's a big boy for sure, but it looks like it'll fit. I just need to get the XT90 harness together and be a little creative with how I place the wires. Now, another question, where do we want to put the power switch? I think maybe the other side on the sidewall would be good. Yeah, something like that. And we can shift over the ESC a little bit. Yeah, that'll work. Cool. Well, I'm gonna go plan some stuff out, and I'll catch up with you guys in a minute. So right now I am currently trying to figure out how I want to route the wires on here. So I'm just kind of running the cables, and I'm going to cut the new cable lengths for this harness, and then we'll go ahead and solder it all together. So let's get these wires cut. I've now set up my soldering station. I've got my 4 wires cut to the correct lengths. On one end of this Y splitter we'll have the 2 female XT90 connectors, and these 2 will feed into the male one, but they'll be doubled up. Normally an XT90 is not rated for actually supporting the full 160 amps that this ESC can take, but the current battery that we're on right now can't even support that anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. And that would require soldering a second XT90 onto the battery itself, so we're not going to do that right now, and we'll just see how it goes. So I'm going to strip these wires, get them all soldered up, and check back in a minute. Alright, so we got this ready to get soldered on here, and this is usually just not a fun time. If you have to splice 2 10 gauge wires to each other just alone, that's hard, but it's fine. Putting 2 10 gauge wires onto one XT90 is one of my least favorite things to do, but we're going to try and make it work here. Even harder than just putting them together and getting them on here, making sure that they don't get too crunchy. One of the tricks I'm using here, since this is a male XT90, is it's plugged into a female one so that the pins don't melt or rotate or anything. These connections are always going to look a little bit funky because there's so much cable there. Now we can go ahead and check it. Cables are very hot right now. Alright, so I got my adapters made up. They are up here. For the signal wires, I had to grab a cable from one of my MakerX bags because the Solo does not with any cables at all. I wish it did, that would be pretty cool, but it does not. Maybe that'll change in the future, but had to grab a cable from there, and I soldered that up to my Hoyt puck converter. Now, back here, I've got the Solo slotted in here in the position where it will live, and now we have to mount up the plug. So, sorry, not the plug, the switch. I was thinking about where I wanted it. I thought maybe I wanted it on the outside here at first, along the side, but I decided that I'm going to put it on this rear corner here. I believe the switch is water resistant, but I never intend to ride this board in damp conditions, so I'm not too worried about that. I am slightly concerned that possibly a rock could hit it here, but hopefully that doesn't happen. In any case, this feels like the best spot to mount it, so I'm going to put it there. And that's on like that corner here. So we're going to go ahead and drill that hole through the fiberglass enclosure, and then we'll get the button mounted. All that fiberglass dust, gotta get it vacuumed up. Hopefully I drilled the hole to the right size. I looked before to make sure that the dimensions are right, but never know. Nice and snug, perfect. Ooh, a little bit too snug, I think. I'm going to use my Deburr tool to try and make this work. I don't really want to open the hole more. Beautiful. That is cool right there. I like it a lot. Alright, so I brought the battery back around to the position we were in before. Now we can go ahead and plug back in the switch. The cables do get a little bit bent around here, but not too much to do about that, to be honest. I'm going to double check the picture I took on my phone, but I think this is the correct spot to plug this in. I will say on this ESC, the diagrams on the sides are printed very, very small. It's kind of hard to read them with your eyes. You might be able to read it on camera here, but they're very small. I think this text at the bottom should get axed, and this diagram should get increased all the way down to the edge in size there. I think that would be enough to be able to read it a lot easier. Anyway, that's the switch plugged in. So now we need to plug in our harness for the power and our remote. So let's plug in the remote here. Now for the remote, it's really easy because these ESCs are hooked up by CAN bus already. That's what this other cable is right here. And since they're hooked up by CAN bus, that means you only need to plug the PPM remote into a single ESC. I don't know which one is the master. We're going to find out later. I was able to tell by the diagram that this plug right here is the PPM, and I was able to confirm that my wiring was correctly placed in terms of positive, negative, and signal. So all of that is connected up, and we should be good to go there. So let's check the diagram, and then we'll hook up the hall sensors, phase wires, and the harness. All right, so plugging in the halls. go right here. Nice. I do really like that the Hall sensors are on the back side of the ESC. It makes the reach really good for the cables. Same thing here. Oof. Snapped into place. 1, 2, 3. 2 and 3. Nice. Gotta work out this power harness. Easy enough to plug in. It's just the cable organization that will be challenging due to the space taken up by this ESC now. The ESC is now making noise, which is odd. Quite loud noise, actually. Interesting. The noise went away when I turned it on. Oh, maybe? Maybe it's on when the button is out and it's off when the button is in? Ah, that must be what it is. Okay. Interesting. Opposite of what I expected. All right, let's get this hooked up to the computer and we'll start configuring this thing. All right, so we're all set up to start the ESC setup, and I went ahead and opened the Metr Pro app to get the Metr Pro inside paired up, and there's a code on here which I've intentionally been covering, and we'll use that to pair to the Metr Pro SOLO, which is pretty awesome because for just a little bit more money you can have the Metr Pro integrated directly inside of the ESC, not even using a UART port. So you still get 2 UART ports and you get the ability to use Metr Pro, which is, in my opinion, the best logger out there. So we will go ahead and start the setup and see what firmware is loaded on here by default. Oh, and you can see the activity LED in there. That's good. All right, I've booted up into Vesc Tool, and firmware 6 is loaded by default on these ESCs, so hopefully I don't die. Anyway, we're going to do the setup, and yeah. Do not restore to default settings. We're going to do escape, override, cycle current limit start at 85%, medium outrunner, yes, 14S battery with a 36 amp hour capacity. Amps of battery regen, 40 amps battery current max. So the wheel diameter, this is a 21 to 83 ratio. And run detection, and detect all motors over CAN bus, so this should detect on both ESCs. Cannot write motor configuration, why not? All right, after quite a bit of messing about and just dealing with Vesc Tool, I managed to get this thing configured. I had to rewrite the bootloaders and rewrite the firmware. I'm still running on firmware 6. I think it'll be okay. Hopefully I don't have any problems. I've got the motor amps configured to 120 per motor and the battery amps to 40 per motor still, because that's all the battery can do. So got this configured with the Hoyt puck, and oh, forgot to turn it on. Go ahead and turn it on. And there you go. Not exactly on the most stable ground right now, but we've got it set up. So now we can screw it all back together and hopefully not have any issues. All right, we got a nice piece of foam here to kind of seal everything in. Unfortunately, the PWM cable over here, you can't see it, but it's right next to the phase wire, so hopefully I don't have any problems with that. But there's not really a better alternate routing, so it is what it is. At least it's not on the power cables, so hopefully we'll be good. Power cables are nicely tucked up in the front here. And now I think we're good to lower the board back down onto the enclosure and shove all the phase cables in where they need to go in a more sticking, permanent, I don't know, better fashion. Got a little bit of a gap here actually. Stick a piece of foam in there. There we go. Well, I have gotten the enclosure fully screwed down, all buttoned up, and all the screws replaced. I ended up taking most of the 14mm screws that were in here before and replacing them with 12s. In one spot on the deck, I actually almost punched through, and it caused a little tiny crack, and you do not want that to happen. So most of them are switched for 12s. There's still a couple 14s in here in the thick places, but the gasket has compressed a good bit since I first put it on, so that's what we got now. As for the speed controller, it is fully installed. You can see the switch right here. Let's go ahead and turn it on. You can see the little blue light shining on the SKP logo, and looks nice, super convenient to have a button. My loop key is now gone. I had it out the back before. It was kind of janky, so I just took it out, don't need it anymore. I could leave it, but don't really need it when you have a power switch. So I think the next upgrade that I'll be doing on here is the battery, so that'll be phase 2, part 2. And there's many more parts coming in the series. This build is far from done, but this is what I'll be racing at ESC with the current setup. So I'm going to do as well as I can. Hopefully I'll be able to place in the mains. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, looking forward to it. Going to have a fun time and race my hardest. I don't think there's too much else to say about this upgrade. It went fairly smoothly besides the stupid Vesc nonsense. This is why people don't like Vescs, because there's always some unknown problem. Fortunately, I was able to figure it all out for now. But yeah, super looking forward to using this, especially with logging. I was really missing that on my practice days before. I just love looking at data and seeing what kind of numbers I pull and what speeds I went. So yeah, if you're going to ESC make sure to hit me up, check out the board, talk to me, whatever you want. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, hit that like button and subscribe to stay tuned for the rest of the parts of this awesome series. Anyway, stay safe, keep on riding, and peace out.